if you want to introduce yourself, and then we're gonna get rolling.
Sounds good. Thanks. So yeah, my name is Edson Magalhães. I'm a veterinarian from Brazil. So during my graduation, I spent 1 year in Minnesota doing an internship in a wing to finish farm. Went back to Brazil, and finished my DVM. Worked as a wing to finish manager in Mato Grosso. Then I worked as a sow farm manager in Brasilia, managing 3 sow farms. Went to Uberlândia, where I was a sow farm field veterinarian there, and came here to the U.S. in January last year to do my master's degree with Dr. Daniel Linhares here at Iowa State University. So our group is basically focused on field epidemiology studies, mostly PRRS, so monitoring, surveillance, prevention, and mostly field studies.
Very good. Very large data sets, and we definitely appreciate you guys' work there. So the first thing, if you can share with us, a little bit of the economic impacts and a few other thoughts around that arena.
Yeah. So yeah, I would say that PRRS, the most important disease here in the U.S. Of course, everybody's worried with the African swine fever, but PRRS, it's been in the U.S. for around 30 years. And the major thing is that year over year, we have Dr. Holtkamp, research from him, that it's about $1 billion of economic losses every year if you count the endemic and epidemic costs. So the epidemic cost will be around $600 million, and the cost with vaccines and controlling everything will be $1 billion per year. So it's a big problem to have that disease 30 years in the U.S. and causing that amount of economic loss, and you cannot figure out how to avoid that, to control that. For example, PED, when PED hit the U.S. in 2013, it was a major issue, but if you can look, for example, at MSHIMP and PRRS reports that are from Minnesota and Iowa State, you're going to see that the incidence and the detection, it's gone. Not gone, completely gone, but compared to the outbreak in 2013, and PRRS not. PRRS, we still have this problem year over year, especially in the winter time.
Very good. No, that's a huge impact, right? And how about then, if you can share with us a little bit about how to control PRRS, and also, the symptoms and lesions, all those things, if you can share that as well with us.
Yeah, so a quick overview on that will be PRRS is RNA virus from the Reproductive family of virus. So a major thing that I would talk about PRRS is the mutation rate. So that's a particularity of the virus, that it can mutate more than influenza virus and the HIV virus. So that's one major point, detail regarding this disease. And basically it replicates in macrophages, and it's going to cause the immune suppression of the system. And another major issue with PRRS, not only the mutation, is that it causes a chronic infectious, a persistent chronic infection in each animal. So you have a virus that has a high mutation rate and that persists for a long time. So it's common to find PRRS 150 days after infection, if you do, for example, a tonsil scraping. So you have those 2 points, and it's going to cause abortions, increase pre-weaning mortality, because the piglets that are going to born, they are going to be weak. So increased birth loss as well. And in older pigs, you're going to have respiratory problems, especially in the growing phase. So it's a tricky virus. So mostly the immune suppression.
Very interesting. So how about from the control side of things?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question that everybody wants to know. That's why it's still causing that economic impact year over year, because nobody still figure out a way to, and there's so much to know about this virus still regarding the immunology, the vaccination and everything. But what is a common procedure here is we have to think about first, we have to think about that epidemiological triad. So in a population, you're going to have three three different stages for each subject. You're going to have a susceptible subject, infected, or the immunized. So if you think on a 5,000 sow farm, you're going to have each individual is going to be in each of those stages.
Yes.
So that's the big thing, because they're all in the same site. So the idea is to basically transfer all the animals within that farm, shift them from the susceptible stage to the immunized stage. Because you have a disease that you don't want to have any susceptible animal within your herd, because it's a virus that has a high mutation rate and is persistent for a long time in each animal. So you don't want to have susceptible animals. So a common practice that the people do here in the US is a load close or exposure procedure. So basically, if you have an outbreak with PRRS, increased abortions and everything, the first thing you're going to do, if you have gilts, you're going to bring immunized gilts as much as you can fit in your farm. And why you do that? Because you're going to close the farm after an outbreak. So bring the gilts that you have and the space that you have to match those things. Then you're going to close the farm and you're going to expose all the animals. You're going to do a mass exposure. Usually people do it LVI, which is a live virus inoculation, or vaccination. Because you want to shift all those animals that are susceptible in that point of time to the immunized stage. And then you start testing. The shedding period is around 90 days. So 90 days around after this procedure, the load close exposure, you start testing and you guarantee more 90 days, and you can start thinking about bringing gilts again, because gilts are susceptible animals. Of course, you're going to bring gilts immunized, but you just want to, the major thing is you want to make sure that when you're going to bring gilts, you don't have the virus circulating within your herd in a low prevalence. And that's the major thing, because the big problem with PRRS, because the virus can circulate within your herd in a very, very low prevalence, close to 0%. And the diagnostic tools that we have nowadays, they are not so precise, and they cannot detect on that low prevalence. But in 2018, we have a research from Dr. Will Lopez here at Iowa State, and he developed the processing fluids. And that was a major change in the monitoring of PRRS, because processing fluids, it's not costly. You're not going to increase more work doing that, and you're going to increase your rate of detection with a population sampling. So basically, it's gathering a lot of all the testicles that you have, that you collect in the processing point of time, and you're going to test that material, that tissue. So you can test a large amount of animals, and you can detect PRRS in a very, very low prevalence. So people are doing that right now.
Very interesting. And then lastly here, Edson, what would be the protocols, from the monitoring standpoint and also prevention?
Marcel, what I would say is that gathering all the tools that are available today, in my opinion, what it would be a perfect, not a perfect, but as close as possible of a good protocol would be weekly monitoring with processing fluids, because you're going to detect in a very low prevalence. Also, due to wean piglets, you're going to do family oral fluids. It's another population sample developed by Dr. Marcelo Almeida. So you don't have to bleed all the pigs in due to wean piglets. You do a family oral fluids. Basically, it's oral fluid on due to wean piglets for each sow. You're also going to monitor productivity data, so we can use SPC charts. So when you have an increased abortion, that's going to detect, because you're going to have 3-4 abortions per week, and you're going to know that you have PRRS when it reaches like 100. But the SPC is going to tell you before that. It's going to tell like, hey, it's 15. So you got to be careful with that.
Yeah.
And also integrate diagnostic information directly with some dashboards for visualization, early intervention. So thinking about the control in a region or in a production system, where you have all this information from productivity, from monitoring, diagnostics, integrated in a single dashboard, where you receive alerts and you early act. So that's the major thing. You have to take actions early with PRRS.
Very interesting. And how successful, let's say if a veterinarian is going to implement that in a herd, you know, from a control standpoint, how successful would you guess? Close to 100% success rate or less, or what's the?
Marshall, that's a a very, very hard question, because even doing all of that, we still have the virus mutating. So we have, this is like common feedbacks from the industry saying that everybody, actually what I'm saying, everybody's trying to do that. If they're not doing that, PRRS on a daily basis. So the success rate, that's a very hard question to know now. I think I wish we should have this information, but I would say that it's not good, because we still have the problem, we still have the economic impact. If we analyze the charts, the incidence rate year over year is still high, so we didn't figure out how to control. So I wouldn't expect an economic impact too much different from what we are seeing.
Very good.
500 million, 600 million.
Yeah.
But we are getting there. We have to understand why in a very low prevalence, like 3% within the herd, you have the virus circulating. Why you have an outbreak again? Because that's the problem. Lateral transmission is not a big. It is a problem, of course, but the major thing is the rebreak with the same virus. Why the virus mutates within that herd? You know, is it the virus mutating and it's the protection is not enough? This is something that we already know. The vaccine, the heterologous protection is not so good. Or is the immunity of the animals that is decreasing? Because the protocol here is kind of different. People do like mass vaccination 3 times, 4 times per year to try to establish the immunity for everybody. But yeah, it's still tricky. I wish I could come here with the solution, but
yeah, no, absolutely. Very good.
Improving.
Yeah, very good. I wonder if anyone here has any questions. Otherwise, we're going to be wrapping up very shortly here, my friends. I know it's late in the night for some there. Drop your questions below, and we used to leave this live ads available, but I don't think we're going to leave it available after the live anymore, because then people don't show up, right? So we're gonna keep it secret after that.
Okay, only for people that saw.
Yes, anyone, and only for those interested in investing the time. So very good, my friend. Any other thoughts on PRRS? Like, what's the future, or when you talk about PRRS right now, what is the latest information? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would say that growing pigs. So people are investigating, understanding more the epidemiology of growing pigs in a region. So people are trying to understand that, because there's a graph, the SDRS chart that detects, focus on PRRS detection. They have the rate, and there's a pattern of increased PRRS detection in growing sites before the outbreaks in sow farms. So why is that? People are not complying a lot with biosecurity in growing sites, so you're spreading to the sow farms that are nearby. So how to improve the immunity? Because if you are talking about a region and you know that you have positive sites with wild type, and you have sow farms that are close, or growing sites that are close, you're going to focus on increasing the immunity on a regional level. So those area and regional controls, they are helping a lot. And now those area regional controls, they have a really important thing, is that those populational samples that wasn't available before. So mixing those area regional controls, focusing on growing sites, trying to understand on a regional level what is the prevalence, not in a site anymore, but in a region, and trying to take actions, depopulate any specific site. For example, if you have a boar stud close to a growing site from another company, but you know that growing site is positive, maybe those companies, they can talk to each other and depopulate, because it's beneficial for both, you know. So I think that's the future, more communicational, talking, focusing on a regional level, and trying to understand more why this virus mutate and cause an outbreak again.
Yes, yes. Very good. And then the last question is, it's amazing, right, what I see in the US as far as disease control systems and monitoring. Do you have any advice for other countries that don't have as much of a developed system for monitoring diseases?
Yeah, Marshall, definitely. I think most of the improvement that the U.S. swine industry is doing now is thanks to the monitoring information. So in other countries that don't have that, they should start reporting, integrating information from VDLs independently, if it's private or from the government, but trying to understand, to merge that information in an anonymized way. You don't need to tell which client, but at least to understand all the samples that are coming from the country and what is the prevalence in regions. So today we have, if you guys have any interest in the site, the website www.fieldepi, and you look for .org and you search for the SDRS tab, it collects 95% of the diagnostic in the US regarding the registered laboratories. And you can see for each disease, mycoplasma, PRRS, and based on those informations, you know how to tackle, you know what are improving or not. And I think the other countries, they have the data. They just have to integrate and analyze.
Very good. Yeah, that's huge. Very good, my friend. Anything else you want to bring up before we finish up here for the night?
Oh, yeah, I wish I could have the answer for solving the problem, but that's $1 million question. And I think we are in the right path. Those populational samples, they are teaching us a lot, and a lot of knowledge is going to arrive from the whole genome sequencing. So that's something also that is improving. People were doing OR5 sequence, now it's whole genome sequencing. So I think we are getting there.
Very good, very good. Great work there, Edson. Thanks for the time, and good night, everyone. I appreciate it.
See you guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.